My parents held down my son and chopped his hair off. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Don't forget to like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories. Back to my story. Saturdays in our home belonged to hair. The scent of coconut oil would drift through the small apartment. Sunlight pooling on the rug where Eli sat cross-legged, a towel draped over his shoulders. He'd hum tunelessly while I parted, combed, and braided. Each row was neat and deliberate, like weaving our story into his scalp. Eli loved the beads, gold for special days, clear for every day. When he ran, they clicked together like applause. Make them talk, Mommy, he'd say, tilting his head so they chimed louder. For him, braids were joy. For me, they were armor, a reminder that he could be himself. In a world that tried to shrink boys like him. School had tried. One teacher called his hair distracting. I sent back a letter loaded with words like heritage, identity, and respect. They backed down. Eli walked in the next day with his head high, and I braided tighter. Family was trickier. Some saw braids on a boy as rebellion. Ruth, my older cousin, was the loudest. Boys shouldn't plait hair, she'd said once. Her tone sugar-sweet but sharp. It's confusing. I'd explained history, culture, and boundaries. She nodded, but her eyes told me she wasn't convinced. Then came the call. Friday evening. Let Eli spend the weekend with me, Ruth said. I bought him sneakers. We'll go to the arcade. Let me spoil him. Eli's eyes lit up. I hesitated. The memory of her earlier comments tugged at me. No hair talk, I said firmly. Please, she laughed. It's just a hairstyle. I packed his bag myself. Pajamas, toothbrush, bonnet, silk pillowcase. As they drove off, Eli waved, beads whispering in the wind. The house felt different when I shut the door. Not quiet. Not peaceful. Wrong. Ruth arrived early Saturday morning, wearing a bright yellow dress that seemed almost too cheerful for the weather. She smelled of expensive perfume and moved with the energy of someone trying too hard to impress. Eli ran to her, laughing as she scooped him into a hug. She stepped back, turning his head from side to side. Look at this handsome boy, she said, fingers brushing the beads. I caught the flicker in her eyes, the same look she'd given before when she made her boys shouldn't plait hair comment. I repeated the rules, no junk after 8, call me before bed, bonnet at night, and absolutely no hair talk. Ruth placed a hand over her chest. Crossed my heart, she said, smiling wide enough to show every tooth. They left in a flurry of promises. Pizza, arcade games, movies. I stood at the window, watching Eli's beads glint as he waved. By noon, the silence in the apartment felt heavy. I texted Ruth, how's he doing? No reply. I waited an hour, then called. The line rang too long before she picked up. We're at the arcade, she said, music pounding faintly in the background. He's fine. Evening crept in. I set aside Eli's favorite blanket and cued the movie we'd planned to watch together. When I called for good night, Ruth said he was already asleep. That was strange. He never slept without our 5 nightly affirmations. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm brave. I'm kind, I'm me. Put him on, I said. He's out cold, she replied too quickly. Then I heard it, a faint shuffle, like someone moving the phone away, followed by a muffled sound I couldn't place. Something in my chest tightened. This wasn't just a quiet night. It was the wrong kind of quiet. I barely slept that night. My phone stayed on the pillow beside me, screen lighting up every time a car passed outside. At 11:40 p.m., it buzzed. A missed call from an unknown number. No voicemail. I called back immediately. It rang, then cut off. Morning didn't bring comfort. I called Ruth at 8 a.m. The line rang. And just when I was about to hang up, she answered, voice strangely bright. Morning. We're having pancakes. Let me talk to Eli. He's still eating, she said, laughing too loudly. Oh, wait. Silence. Then a muffled voice. Eli's. I couldn't make out the words, but there was urgency in them. Ruth's voice came back, sharper this time. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? We're busy. She hung up before I could reply. I sat at the table, coffee growing cold in my hands, replaying every word. Eli never avoided me. Never. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that Ruth was just managing a busy morning. But something in that pause, that muffled voice, gnawed at me. By afternoon, I called again. This time, no answer. I sent a text, "Tell Eli I love him." A minute later, 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, no reply. The air in my apartment felt stale, pressing against my skin. I checked the time, nearly 5 p.m. I called again, no answer. That night, the wind rattled the windows. I woke at 2 a.m. to another missed call from the same unknown number. My hand shook as I called back. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't know it then, but Eli had been trying to reach me, and someone, maybe more than one person, was making sure he couldn't. By Sunday morning, my patience had cracked. I told myself I'd just dropped by Ruth's place. But deep down, I knew I was going to bring Eli home. The street was still wet from last night's rain, the air heavy with the smell of damp earth. As I approached her house, the curtains in the front window shifted, a shadow moving quickly away. I knocked once, then twice, no answer. I rang the bell, holding it longer than necessary. Finally, footsteps shuffled to the door. Ruth opened it, her smile small and forced. "Oh, Maya, we weren't expecting you." "I can see that," I said, stepping past her before she could block me. Eli was on the couch, shoulders hunched, head bowed. It took me a second to register what I was seeing. His braids were gone. His hair was uneven, hacked short in some places, shaved close in others. A jagged patch near his temple made my stomach turn. "What happened?" My voice was low, sharp. Ruth's hands went to her hips. "I told you before, boys shouldn't plait hair. We were just helping him look proper." "Helping?" I turned to Eli. His eyes were red, his cheeks streaked from dry tears. "Tell me what happened." They held me down. "Mommy," he whispered. "I told them to stop, but they didn't. They said you'd thank them." His small hands gripped the hem of his shirt like he was holding on to the only thing that was still his. The room tilted around me. My pulse roared in my ears. "Get your things," I said. Ruth tried to speak, but I was already kneeling beside my son, running my fingers gently over the rough stubble where his braids had been. It wasn't just hair they'd taken. It was something much deeper. We were barely out of Ruth's driveway before Eli began to cry. It wasn't the quiet kind. It was the kind that came from somewhere deep. The kind that shook his small shoulders and broke my chest into pieces. I pulled over to the side of the road, unbuckled, and slid into the back seat with him. "Eli, baby, tell me everything." "All of it." He sniffled, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. I was watching cartoons in the living room. Then Aunt Ruth came in with Uncle Tade and Cousin Lani. They said they had to fix my head before we went out. His lips trembled. I said no. I told them you said I could keep my hair. I could already feel my hands curling into fists. And then they told me boys don't plait hair, that I was embarrassing the family. His voice grew smaller. Uncle Tade held my arms. Lani sat on my legs. Aunt Ruth took scissors. I tried to move, but they pressed me down. "I was screaming for you, Mommy." I screamed and screamed. Tears blurred my vision. "Did they hurt you?" He hesitated. When they finished cutting, Aunt Ruth took clippers. She shaved a shape, like a circle with lines in it. She said it would break the curse. I didn't understand. I wanted to drive back, kick the door down, and make them regret every second. But Eli's trembling hand in mine anchored me. Right now, I needed to get him safe. I pulled him close, his shorn head against my chest. "No one will ever touch you like that again. I promise." In that moment, I knew this wasn't just about hair. It was about control, and they weren't done yet. By the time we got home, Eli had curled up on the couch under his favorite blanket, clutching the stuffed lion he'd had since he was 3. I was in the kitchen, pacing, my phone in hand, debating whether to call the police or storm back to Ruth's myself. That's when my phone buzzed. An unknown number again. I hesitated, then answered. "Maya," the voice was hushed, urgent. "It's Mrs. Bayo. I live 2 houses down from Ruth." I knew her, a soft-spoken widow who always watered her plants at odd hours. "Yes." She lowered her voice even more. "I saw what they did to you boy yesterday." My stomach clenched. "You saw them?" They made him sit on a stool in the yard. 2 of them held him down. Ruth was cutting, talking about cleansing and removing shame. He was crying so loud I nearly came over. But then I remembered what happened last time. "What last time?" I pressed. She sighed. 2 years ago, her nephew came to stay. Same thing. He had dreadlocks. They held him down, cut them off, and shaved a strange mark. His mother came for him the next day, but the boy never spoke about it again. They said it was for his own good. My pulse quickened. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment cruelty. It was a pattern, a ritual. Maya, she continued, be careful. They believe boys with certain hairstyles are cursed. They think cutting it a certain way breaks the curse. Your son might not be safe if they think the work isn't finished. I glanced at Eli, sleeping fitfully on the couch. The jagged symbol on his scalp suddenly felt like a target. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. It was something darker. I didn't wait. I called Ruth and told her to meet me in person. No excuses, no delays. We met at a small cafe halfway between our houses, neutral ground. She arrived wearing oversized sunglasses, the kind that hid more than just eyes. Before she could sit, I said, "Why did you do it?" My voice was low but hard. Why hold down a crying child and cut his hair against his will? She took off the sunglasses and leaned back. You wouldn't understand. Maya, this isn't about you or your so-called boundaries. It's about saving Eli. Saving him? I almost laughed. From what? Ruth's lips tightened. There's an elder in the family who sees things. She said boys with plaited hair are vulnerable to a spirit that brings ruin to their homes. It hides in the hair. The only way to remove it is to cut it completely and mark the head to close the door it came through. My skin crawled. You expect me to believe this? Superstition gives you the right to assault my son. It's not superstition. I've seen it happen, she snapped. Look at Uncle Dayo's son. Died before he was 20. He had hair just like Eli's. Do you want that for your boy? I stared at her, my hands trembling under the table. If you ever touch my child again, curse or no curse, I will make sure you regret it. And this time, I won't just be calling family. I'll be calling the police. She leaned forward, her voice like ice. Then you'd better keep him close. Because the elder said the cleansing isn't complete. And if it's not, something worse is coming. I left without finishing my drink, but her words followed me all the way home. That night, after Eli had finally drifted into a restless sleep, I sat in the dim light of the living room with my laptop. Ruth's warning kept looping in my head. The cleansing isn't complete. I started with family photos. My mother's old albums were stacked in a box under the coffee table. Page after page, I saw boys in the family with close-cropped hair, some with faint patterns shaved into their scalps. At first, I thought it was just style. But then I noticed something. In every picture, the boys were around Eli's age, and none of them kept their hair longer than a few inches afterward. Digging deeper, I called Aunt Flora, the only relative I trusted completely. She lived far away and had long distanced herself from the rest of the family. When I told her what happened, she went quiet. Then she sighed. Maya, this has been happening for generations. It's an old belief tied to a prophecy from the village. They say a boy with braided hair in our bloodline is marked, destined to bring shame unless the hair is cut and the mark sealed into his head. I rubbed my temples. So they hurt children over a story. Not just a story, she said. They believe a tragedy in the past proved it. Your great-uncle's son died in an accident right after he had his hair plaited. People connected dots that weren't there. Ever since, they've been forcing this ritual. I thought about Mrs. Bayo's warning, about Ruth's icy voice. Why didn't anyone stop it? Flora's tone turned grim. Because the ones who question it are called cursed themselves. That's why I left. I closed the album, my heart pounding. This wasn't superstition anymore. This was control disguised as tradition, and my son was next on their list. 2 days passed without a word from Ruth or anyone else. I thought maybe the storm had passed, until Tuesday afternoon. I had just finished folding laundry when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Lani, Ruth's teenage daughter, standing on the porch with a paper bag in her hands. Eli was still in his room drawing, so I stepped outside, keeping the door barely open. Hi, Aunt Maya, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mum asked me to drop off some jollof rice for Eli. She feels bad about. You know, I didn't move to take it. Tell your mum I said thanks, but we're fine. Lani tilted her head. You should at least let him say hi. He misses us. Goodbye, Lani. I began to close the door, but her voice sharpened. You think keeping him away will change anything? The elder says the mark isn't sealed yet. If it's not done soon, The curse will take him. I froze. Leave, now. She smirked, stepped back, and walked toward a car parked a little too far down the street. My stomach dropped when I saw Ruth behind the wheel. She didn't look at me, just started the engine and pulled away slowly, like she wanted me to know this wasn't over. That night, I checked Eli's window locks twice. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the alley behind the house. Peering through the blinds, I caught a glimpse of a shadow lingering near, the fence beaver slipping away into the dark. I stayed awake until dawn, the baseball bat beside me. It wasn't paranoia anymore. They were coming for my son again, and this time, I wasn't letting them get close. By morning, my decision was made. This wasn't going to stop with locked doors and warning words. They had already crossed the line once. I wasn't giving them the chance to do it again. I called a lawyer I knew from a parents' advocacy group. Her voice was calm but firm. You need a restraining order. Maya, immediately. This is assault, harassment, and child endangerment. The fact that it's family doesn't matter in the eyes of the law. She walked me through the steps, and by noon I was standing in a courthouse filing the paperwork. Every detail spilled out, how they held him down, cut his hair, shaved the mark, and was still trying to get to him. I handed over Mrs. Bayo's statement and screenshots of the threatening text Ruth had sent in the past. When I got home, I told Eli we were going somewhere safe for a while. Is it because of Aunt Ruth? He asked, his voice small. Yes, I said, because I love you too much to let anyone hurt you again. That night, I packed bags for both of us. Just as I zipped the last one, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. You can hide him, but the curse will still find him. We're only trying to save him before it's too late. My hand shook, but I didn't reply. Instead, I sent the message to my lawyer and the police. An hour later, we were on our way to Aunt Flora's house, miles away from Ruth's reach. As I drove through the dark, Eli's head rested against the window, the faint stubble of his regrowing hair catching the street lights. This was far from over, but now I was ready to fight. Aunt Flora's house felt like a fortress compared to mine. Tall gates, 2 locks on every door, and a back porch that looked out over nothing but quiet farmland. For 2 weeks, Eli started to relax. He laughed again, his drawings filled with bright colors instead of grey scribbles. I almost let myself believe it was over. Then, one evening, just as the sun dipped behind the hills, there was a knock at the gate. Flora looked through the peephole and stiffened. It's Ruth. My stomach dropped. I stepped outside, leaving the gate locked. What are you doing here? Ruth's face was pale, her voice trembling, a sharp contrast to her usual defiance. Maya, please, let me finish the cleansing. The elder says Eli's life is in danger. We don't have much time. I laughed a bit early. You mean your danger? You're scared because you went against me and now you think a curse will come for you. She gripped the bars of the gate. You don't understand. We've already had signs. A bird flew into the house. Mirrors cracked on their own. That's not a curse, Ruth. That's guilt. Her eyes darted past me, trying to catch a glimpse of Eli. I stepped into her line of sight, blocking her view. If you ever come near my son again, I won't just get another restraining order. I'll make sure you see the inside of a courtroom. For a moment, I thought she might push the gate open, but then her hand slipped away from the bars. She took a step back, ice cold. You'll regret this, she whispered, before turning and walking into the dusk. I watched her until she was gone. Then I locked the gate, slid the bolt, and turned to find Eli watching from the window. It's over, I told him. And for the first time in weeks, I believed it.